Replacing the cooling fan assembly is not difficult, however it is very time consuming. There are a lot of steps to take. It's like taking and putting a puzzle together, or taking a puzzle apart and putting it back together again. As you can see here, I have it all taken apart, and there are a lot of steps. So if you don't feel comfortable in going through all these steps, then I suggest you have it done by a dealership or mechanic of your choice. But anyway, I'm going to attempt to show you how to do this job step by step, and here we go. Please note, the fans are coming on and the car is not even running. Key is now turned off. Fans then shut off. The next thing you need to do is actually take the air box out, this whole section here. So you want to take and remove this cap, which is right here. There's a little clip. You push down on that and it will pull out, pops out. Come on, there. Alright, well, I can't get it all off because I don't have it. Okay, there you go. It'll come off. So you want to remove that. Put mine back on, and get a Phillips screwdriver, loosen this up. I'm going to pull this whole section off. I'm not going to pull it off, but you can pull this whole air box off. Take and unclip these clips, 1, 2, and 3. Already clipped that one right there. Okay. And then you're going to take that whole top section. You're going to see this little connector right here is going to come off. Push down on this right here and pulls out. I can't get it with my left hand, but you get the idea. If you push down on this and slide that out, take that connector off. So take the top of the box off. Then you're actually going to need to remove the whole entire air box to get down in here. So there's a little hose right here. I'm going to pull that hose off. And then the box is actually sitting down inside these little rubber, and I don't know if I can get to them, little rubber feet. Let's see if I can. Yeah, I can't really zoom in on it. Okay, so the box is sitting on 3 little feet. They're kind of a vacuum, for lack of a better term. It kind of sucked down in there. You're going to have to just grab the case and pull it up, and it'll actually pop right out. It's really hard down in there, tight, but it'll pop out. Take that whole case out of there. Alright, so I started taking some of the parts off the car already to get it ready to remove the fans. As you can see, I've got the power steering unit loose. I used vinyl gloves just to plug up the holes and zip ties on both the hose side and on the reservoir side. I also took the upper coolant hose off and strapped it back out of the way. Probably should put a cover over that. Maybe I'll put another vinyl glove over that one. I thought I could pull the fan. I got the fan loose here, and I thought maybe I could loosen enough to pull it out of here, but it's not enough. I probably need another inch of space. So unfortunately, it really sucks, because now we're going to have to replace or take off the entire front bumper section of the car to get to the radiator, where we have to remove the radiator bolts and move the radiator forward a little bit to pull the fans out. So with that, I'm going to start taking parts off. I need to remove these plastic tabs. I already got one out. Take the second one out. You can like half turn 90 degrees on this screw, and it pops it out. You may need to hold the inner whatever they want to call that, the little inner plastic piece, maybe with a screwdriver or whatever, and then rotate this, and then once that pops out, you can pull the whole thing out. And then up underneath the car, there's looks like 10mm bolts on each side you have to take out. You need to remove, there's a little plastic panel on each side. There's 4, looks like 9mm screws that come out. Looks like each side. You're going to have to take those off before you pull this front skin off. Okay, behind this wheel well, there is a Phillips screw up underneath that holds on this piece right here on each side. You got to take that out. Okay, so once you have the bumper shell loose, this part just like pops out. But don't pull it all off real quick, because you've got to get inside and unplug these driving lights underneath here. So do that gently as you pull the cover off. You can get down there and unplug them, plus the turn signal as well. So do that next. Alright, so as you can see, the bumper skin is off. And now, believe it or not, we're going to have to take the driving lights out, headlamps. So the whole package comes out all in one. Looks like there are 10mm bolts down underneath here, and one on the right side, and it looks like one over here, maybe this one, and I'm not sure, but maybe this one as well. We'll find out here in a minute, and I'll get back with you. Alright, before you try to pull the lamp out, make sure you unplug it in the back here, and use a screwdriver to push down on the tab and pull it out. Disconnect it on both sides, and then there's this little hidden tab right here. See this little guy right here? He's got to be lifted up and out. And then, come on, I can get it this way. Nope. There we go. Pull that out of there. One on each side, over on the other one. Take him out, and then you should be able to get the lamp out. Alright, modules are out. The next step is we have to take this hard bumper off, and that includes this part right here. So first go through and you have to clip the little zip ties that are holding all the wiring to it all along there. Check along the back side here and make sure they're all off. Disconnect the sensor, I mentioned that already, to the hood latch right there. Then you come down here and you're going to have to disconnect this impact sensor right here in front. And then we're going to have to start taking some bolts off. So it looks like 12mm bolts here, 10mm here, another 12 underneath here, 2 underneath down here, another one down here, looks like a 10mm, the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to work on that and I'll get back with you in a few minutes. Okay, it was actually easier just to bring the whole sensor out by compressing these clips on the back side of this bar right here and just pulling the whole thing out, and to try to pull the connector out. There's really a pain in the butt to get these things to push in and pull out. Anyway, so I did that. And the other one I forgot to mention is there's another sensor, impact sensor here in front. You have to disconnect that and undo the zip tie underneath there. These 12mm bolts are on there real tight, probably with an impact wrench. So I actually use an extension bar on the end of my ratchet to loosen them up. And I can't do it very well with one hand, but you'll have to break it loose that way. There's probably a torque value that needs to be put on these when we put them back together. I'll have to look that up, and we'll get back to you. Alright, before you remove the bumper, on the driver's side, you need to take, this is the plug for the lamp, and you can see here that it's got a little tab holding it into this plate, which is going to come off. So you need to just get a pair of needle nose pliers and pinch that in, pop that out of there before you take this bumper off. Okay, I discovered something. You do not have to take the entire bumper off. All you have to do is loosen up, take the 2 bolts out of the top here, loosen up the bottom ones so that they're out probably about a ½ inch, and then come around to the driver's side and take both of them out, all 4 of them actually out, and then you can pull the whole section with the radiator away from the car a little bit, enough that you can get in and get the fan out. So here I have the fan partially out here. Kind of move everything out of the way. You got to move all this wiring harness out of the way. Move all these wires up here out of the way. Make sure now the bottom of the fan unit, there's 2 little tabs that stick down. You can kind of see where the hole is down there. They stick down through some holes. This one on the left side here is a real booger to get out. You have to really yank up and pull it up out of there. And once you do that, then I think you can slide this fan out. I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and I'll get back. Okay, as you can see, the old fan unit is out of the car. It came out the way I explained. So I'm going to put that down over here. And there's the old unit. And now we're going to go and clean things up and put the new unit in its place. We'll get back to you in a little bit. Take and remove all these little tabs, pop them out from the back side, and transport them over to the new unit, because you're going to pull these zip ties out of here and put in new zip ties. So take them all out, put them on the new unit. I'll do that next, and then we'll do the reverse of putting it back in. Alright, before you put the new fan unit in, take these nut tabs off and transfer them over to the new unit. Can't do this with one hand. But anyway, this one and this one need to be transferred over to the new unit. Alright, getting the fan back in is not real easy. You need to jiggle it along and get it all the way under this AC tubing. It's got to be pushed back behind it. And you got to keep sliding it to the left until you finally get the two little knobs at the bottom to drop down into their holes. So it's not easy. Just keep working at it though. Make sure you get these are cooling hoses for the transmission back out of the way. They're down in here. And then just, yeah, keep working at it until they drop down in the holes. And I'm going to do that right now. Okay. Alright, the new unit is in place. Not an easy thing to do. The little tabs at the bottom were real boogers to get in their little slots. I had to climb underneath the car and kind of pry them in with a screwdriver. But I got them in. This newer unit seems to be a little bit, its tolerance is a little wider than the old unit. But I did get it back in place, and then you can put your 10mm bolts back in here and the one over on that corner. And then start doing the reverse, so putting everything back on. You put these cooling, AC cooling lines back in place here and here. And then the electrical lines can go across. And then, well, actually, before you probably do that, probably need to. We'll go ahead and assemble and put the front section back together again. I'll bolt on the bumper and on both sides and bolt it back into place. And then we'll check back in a little bit. Thanks. All right. So when putting the bumper back on, try to align the bolts up so that you can see that there's no, the paint's covering, there's no silver behind it showing. So you can lift the bumper up and down, just snug up put all the bolts in by hand first, and then lift and adjust the bumper until the rim of the the bolt, covers up any unpainted area. That way you'll know it's aligned back to the way it was at factory. So, and then you tighten them down snug, and you do the same thing on the other side, which I've already done. Well, you can kind of see there's a little bit of silver showing here, so it means I have to adjust that a little bit. Alright, so I'm putting the power cable back onto the control unit on the fan right down in here. This guy, okay, pretty big connector right there. So when you push it on, it's got rubber seals, so you got to push it on real tight before it clips into the locking mechanism here. So by pushing it on just by hand like this, you can't really get a good grip on it. So actually what I'm going to use is like a little C-clamp here. I'm going to grab onto the bottom of that and clamp it down until it pops into the socket, and you'll hear it pop, click in place. Anyway, that's just an FYI. You might think it's plugged in just because you pushed it in like that, but it's really not in all the way. So you got to make sure you get it firmly pushed up in there. So there you have it. Okay, so remember to before you tighten this piece back up, to get down in here and reconnect the light switches. Same with the one here on the turn signal. Get those all in place. And then come over here, stretch this over. Do it with one hand. There you go. Pop that in there. Okay, and you do the same on the other side. Alright. Okay, once you have everything all back together again, make sure you refill your power steering unit and your engine coolant. Make sure that there's no leaks, that all your connections and everything are good. And then fire it up, see how it goes. Okay, we've got everything back together. Last few notes to remind you that once you put the air box back on, make sure you put this hose back in put this connector back on, put this connector back on, put this connector back on, and make sure you tighten up around onto the throttle body here. Other than that, I think we're pretty much done. The next step is to power it up and